By the time a woman hits 50, she's lived enough life to understand that her story has never been shaped by her good choices alone, but it was also shaped by the bad ones, the choices she didn't want anybody to ever find out about, the ones she tried to justify more to herself than anyone else, the ones she swore she'd take to her grave because they were too traumatic to talk about. All of us have our stories, and this one is about going from fixer to freedom. As we continue this series, 50 Plus, Grown Women Conversations. Hey everybody, it's your girl Coach G, your certified transformational coach with a master's in psychology and a PhD in life. Welcome to That's It, That's All, the podcast where my goal is to help you shift the way you think so you can shift the way you live. So let's get into it. For many of us, 50 plus is when we shift our mental posture. We no longer care about who uh, is looking at us, what they think about how we live our lives. We don't care about how they think about how we dress, what we say, where we go. It's like we have finally arrived at that who's going to check me boo empire state of mind, right? And that's the kind of attitude that comes from the realization that you've lived half your life trying to please other people, keep the peace, take care of everybody else, while you yourself are trying to survive, trying to forgive past hurts, and figure out how to choose you. In our 20s, we made mistakes out of innocence, out of inexperience, out of misinformation, and just plain trying to figure out life because we had that newfound freedom that came with graduating high school and entering into college, that newfound adulthood. In our 30s, we made mistakes out of hope. Uh, I hope this job is the right job. I hope this career is the right career. I hope this is the right city, the right purchase, the right man. But in our 40s, something begins to change. Now, unfortunately, some of the same mistakes we tend to keep repeating. And I think that's mostly uh, out of loyalty, sometimes out of just trying to stay afloat financially. And sometimes it's just simply because we're tired, right? Tired of constantly beating all the dead horses, the horse of uh, lopsided friendships, where as a friend, you keep giving. You keep trying to stay connected. You keep trying to be that supportive friend. But every time it's your time to be connected and to be supported, none of those friends can be found. And so you have that other layer. You're tired of toxic marriages or toxic partnerships where nothing you do makes them happy or keeps them out of another, what I call dual intimate relationships. But you stay because you believe you don't deserve any better, or you stay because you're afraid that you might not be able to make it financially. And so you chain yourself to the old cliche, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. You've made yourself believe that it's safer to stick with what is familiar, even if it's toxic, rather than risk the what you don't know out of fear that the alternative might be worse. Many of you have lived your life in misery because you either don't want to be alone or you have children and you feel that you can't make it on your own, or you were told to stick it out for the kids, or the church said stick it out for Jesus. You believe that because you're getting older, you won't be able to find a partner to live out the rest of your days with. Now, I'm not telling you to leave your man, but what I am telling you is if you're staying out of fear, you're just there suffering in silence. That is not living, that's not life. Maybe you're at a point in life where you're exhausted with work, and you work hard, and you prove yourself over and over again, only to see someone else less qualified picked over you for the promotion. And sometimes you've been the one that trained them, right? You're overwhelmed with the choices you see your adult children making because you know what's ahead. So you try to head them off at the path. And you're acting like a dentist trying to pull teeth to get them to go a different route. The list just goes on. But this 50 plus season is not about shame. It's not about regrets. It's about finally being brave enough to let go, not needing to have control. It's about living the rest of your life with a clear mind, trusting your instincts more, releasing toxic people and toxic situations without feeling like you have to give an excuse of why, and honoring the wisdom you've learned through your own personal hard knocks in this classroom called life. You don't need proof. You don't need permission. You don't need a second opinion. You don't need to be the police of anybody. They've already made up their minds. They know what they're going to do, and you need to let them do it. I remember a young lady who I was very close with, beautiful woman. And she had met a guy in church and they dated for a very short while before getting married. But herein lies the problem. And this was before the marriage took place. One day I was at her home and we were talking. Now, I don't remember exactly how the conversation started, but we began to talk about the engagement, and she started expressing a lot of her concerns. And I listened. And my question to her after she told me everything she told me was, well, why not just call the marriage off? Seeing all the doubts that she had. And I sat and I talked with her for I know it had to be over an hour. But her response to me was everything had been planned. Everything was in order. The preacher, the venue, the food, the guests. And I remember saying to her again, but all that can be canceled. Needless to say, she went through with that marriage and not very long thereafter. I don't even know if it was a month. I'll even just push it and say 2. She found herself in an abusive situation, And growing up in an abusive environment as a child myself, I was mortified for her. And I said all that to say this, or I shared that story to say this. At this stage of your life is where you should begin to realize, if you haven't already, that people will make their own decisions about their lives, regardless of the wisdom that you may offer, regardless of you trying to be the voice of reason, regardless of you trying to be the fixer. Sometimes people's minds are already made up even before they ever talk to you. And your time spent trying to help is time from your life wasted. My ladies who are 50 plus, I want you to be free because a whole lot of you have spent decades trying to be everybody's savior, trying to be the fixer, the strong one. People have depended on you because they knew you were dependable. People have mistreated you because they knew you would take it. I was in a marriage where every time there was infidelity, I would always threaten to leave. It would happen again, and I would threaten to leave. And it would happen again, and there were babies, and I would threaten to leave. I finally said, "No more. I deserve better." I was tired of staying, trying to prove to people that I could have this amazing marriage. I was tired of trying to prove that to people who could care less whether I made it or not in that marriage because there were so many people that didn't want us to be married anyway. You've been the one who has tried to hold the family together, to mend friendships, to get people not to travel the same rocky roads that you have. But hear me clearly, at 50 plus, that season should be over. Being the fixer should no longer be your assignment. It's time for you to resign. You no longer need to carry the burden of those who dump on you because they're too lazy to try and fix their own circumstances. You've spent years trying to prove yourself to people who've already decided who you are to them. You've dealt with their confirmation biases. You've dealt with their projections, their unhealed stories while trying to deal with your own. You've spent too much time trying to rescue folk who had no intentions of being rescued or rescuing themselves for that matter. You spent years trying to earn love, earn respect, earn your place in spaces you should have never been in the first place. You've already gotten your ticket paid for by your own life experiences. Let them get their own tickets. At 50 plus, you should now be stepping into a new chapter where you don't have to be the hero in everybody else's story. You just need to be the main character in your own. As a transformational coach, I want to share something with you from a psychological perspective. People don't see you as you are. They see you as they are. They see you as their wounds, their fears, how they were raised, their triggers, their emotional memory and biases. And taking that into consideration, this is the time for you to take charge of your own life and prioritize your own well being as you enter into this new phase. Stop trying to save people from the stories they were meant to live. This is now your time. Your time. Reclaim the narrative. Start choosing peace over proving you belong. This is the time, if ever, to start setting boundaries before you allow people to cause you burnout. You don't need to explain. You don't need to feel guilty. You don't need to apologize. You just need to be like Nike and just do it. Because the next half of your life is not about being everybody's savior. It's about being your own. It's now about the type of wisdom that you've gained only after you've hit enough emotional brick walls to finally recognize that the imprint of your face is in it. You're finally looking at life through a lens of understanding, recognizing repetitive behaviors. You're deciding you're no longer going to ignore red flags. You remember how it felt hitting that brick wall. It was uncomfortable. Sometimes it was painful. And you know that's not where you want to go again. For many of us, our choices were influenced by different external factors and external circumstances. They happened inside a diaspora of expectations. So we smiled instead of outwardly showing or speaking how we really felt. We put on an act of strength and embraced generational beliefs and unspoken truths. We learn from our moms and our aunties and our churches the rules of the collective, the norms that hovered over us like the community watchmen that policed our conduct and our every move. Those norms pressured us to conform to the things we didn't necessarily believe in. We just did it because it was expected. But every mess we made, every mistake we survived, every lesson we've learned from hitting that brick wall, and all of this has brought us to this season where there should be more clarity, more confidence, more wisdom. And that wisdom that you have has come with a price tag, your emotional space. And once you reach this season, it's time for you to realize you can't carry everything and everybody anymore. Not their expectations, not their emergencies, not their projections, not their guilt trips or their excuses. You don't have the capacity. And more importantly, you shouldn't have the desire. This is the time where your peace should be non-negotiable. And the boundaries you set are made clear. Can we do it? Hey everybody, this is your girl Coach G. Thank you so much for listening in. Next week, we will continue our series, 50 Plus Grown Women Conversation, where we're headed next into the heart of what it means to reclaim your emotional space. Stop being the emotional storage unit for everybody else's chaos and stop paying rent in relationships where you don't even live anymore. Because you'll just continue to repeat the same patterns if your emotional space is still cluttered with everybody else's mess. So, in the next episode, we're going to talk about what it looks like and what it costs to take your emotional space back by cleaning house and resetting the rules of engagement unapologetically. Don't forget to hit the like button, share with somebody you know, or on your social media platforms. Also, don't forget to subscribe and please leave a comment. Until next time, get out there and conquer the world. And if not the world, conquer yourself.
Can we do it?